For more insight into RCEP, let's bring in Arthur Dong. He's a teaching professor at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. Arthur, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me on.
Let's begin by talking about the goals of this new measure. As we heard in those very thorough stories that started our program tonight, it really is a new era for regional trade.
Oh, certainly. This is a monumental event. This creates, in essence, one of the world's largest regional trade zones or trade blocs. It continues with the expansion of a continued liberalization of markets in this all-important and fast-growing region of the world, which is East Asia and Southeast Asia. The region itself covers up to 30% of global GDP, with a total population encompassing 2.2 billion people. So in terms of its overall impact in the years to come, one could only say that this is monumental in both its sheer scope and its sheer size. In addition to that, the harmonization of rules and regulations, which intend to bring down and harmonize those regulations so as to facilitate free and open trade. So these are all very, very important sort of drivers of the future growth of the East Asian economy.
You know, there's something also going on in the world right now, COVID-19, and many people may be wondering with the recent Omicron outbreak, how is the pandemic affecting this rollout?
Oh, this is certainly, in terms of the timing, certainly a response to the global pandemic, as well as the supply and logistical disruptions that this entire region has suffered, China included. So this, in terms of timing, couldn't have come at a better time. This serves as a counterbalance to the challenges that this region faces.
Interesting. Now, Arthur, from everything I've read, tariffs on nearly 65% of entities go to zero instantly. And over the next 20 years, that number skyrockets to nearly 90%?
As I said, this is breathtaking in terms of scope and in terms of overall impact. We're talking about 90% of all the trade conducted by these signatory nations, the tariffs on these manufactured goods going in essence to zero, in a sense creating the world's or one of the world's largest free trade zones. This dwarfs the USMCA in terms of its sheer size and scope.
It really does mean free trade. So how is China and its burgeoning middle class expected to be affected by this?
Well, this, in terms of the headwinds that China is facing in its domestic economy, as well as those external sort of challenges that it's facing both with the United States and globally in terms of rising commodity prices, you know, labor sort of shortages, they're appearing all over the world. Mm-hmm. This could not have come at a more important time. And I think for China, the easy money has already been made. China's growth moving forward is going to be much more challenging. And this is just one of those more complementary strategies that are going to fit well in terms of China's future overall growth.
What about smaller nations? Any hesitancy at all from them?
No, I think they're going to benefit greatly. Actually, we already observed that much of the what we call labor-intensive manufacturing, a lot of that is moved out of China already to places like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And so whether you're talking about apparel manufacturing or toys and shoes, a lot of that is already migrated to lower wage countries. And those countries are going to benefit because many of those exports from those places like Vietnam are going to be exported to member nations of the RCEP on a duty-free, tax-free basis. So they're going to be the beneficiaries of this, as well as all the agricultural and mineral products that are primarily exported from many of these countries as well.
You know, Arthur, I can't let you go without talking about the tariffs. We've talked about the ones that are evaporating. Far different from what has been going on here in the United States. Punishing tariffs that were really kicked in by former President Donald Trump and continue under the Biden administration, and the U.S. being on the sidelines of this. What does this do to U.S. trade?
Oh, this is just a massive, it magnifies the miscalculation that was carried out in 2017 when President Donald Trump and his administration abandoned the Trans-Pacific Partnership. all the signatories to that original deal are now signed on to the RCEP. And monumentally, Japan and South Korea, this is the first time that they've brokered a trade agreement with China. And so China just basically, America's loss is China's gain. China simply picked up the ball and ran with it. So I portend 5 years from now, we're going to recognize here amongst policy circles in the United States the monumental errors that were committed as a result of this.
Yeah, those two words are going to stick with me. Massive miscalculation, you say. Arthur Dong, teaching professor at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. As always, thanks very much for your insight.